All right. How are we doing, everybody? Good to see you. This is Israel Anderson, and welcome to another Table Talk. And I've had so many very incredibly frustrating technical problems the last 48 hours. It's just been quite absurd. The ticker at the bottom of the screen that had everybody's names in it that ran along there that were in the Founders Club, I'm going to have to do it a different way. We're going to start off by thanking these incredible people. We're trying to get this up to 100 subscribers, right? That's minimum wage in Colorado. After Stripe takes their cut, 100 subscribers at $25 a month. I want to be able to do this full time. I want to be able to do this every single day, or 5 days a week, or 6 days a week. I mean, as much as I possibly can. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot to talk about. After taking a 2-year break, when I was teaching before on the regular, my friends provided enough that that's all I had to do was just keep making great content like this, and talking about Jesus, and talking about the kingdom, and talking about ancient history and how everything connects together and all of that kind of thing. And then I took a 2-year break. So, that dried up, and now we're back to it. And so if we can get this up to 100 people, that'll give me minimum wage. I'm okay with that. I can do that, okay? So these are the people that have already stood up, and I appreciate you all so much. And I know all of your first names. And so I'm going to resist accidentally saying your first names here just to give you guys some privacy. But R. Pierce, C. Palumbo, V. Zimmer, A. Smith, R. Ward, M. Nielsen, J.C. Heron, C. Morgan, D. Gravoy, J. Gable, R. Papastamos. Thank you all so very much. You can join this over at andersondiscoveries.com. The gospel is free, not cheap. So everything is for free to everybody. But in the Founders Club, those that have paid $25 a month, and you know what? It's a bit of money, right? It's not $5 a month. I understand that. I really want to be able to do this for the rest of my life, just to teach, okay? To keep discovering, to keep sharing what I discover. And I think there's enough people out there that really want that to happen. So please consider this. Maybe just do it for a few months. That's all right. We understand there'll be an ebb and flow, and see if it's worthwhile for you. You get to join our little private Telegram group where we talk about these things, and they get access to all of these. So they will get access to this after I've recorded it. But the date here is that it will be released Friday, December 15, but I'm recording this on Thursday, December 14, because the Founders Club gets it first. And they get to see, did I make any mistakes? And hey, you might want to consider this, consider that. And sometimes we re-record, and we get to speak about things in the group, in the private Telegram group. Zero censorship, right? So please consider this. It's not, I'm not some Joel Osteen with $40 million a year or something. I have about $325 a month on a regular coming in right now from my friends. If we could get this up, that'll be fantastic. But let's dive in to Two Gardens and a Snake. Now, where did we leave off from yesterday? We were here 45 days into a 3-week trip. Now wait, 21 days versus 45 days. That's twice as long. What's going on here? We are 45 days into a 21-day journey. Yahweh has taken the Hebrews out of Egypt, and there's some dispute. Yahweh says there were slaves in Egypt. He kind of repeats that a couple of times. It's like he's trying to get a point across. He takes 2.5 million people. Now, that's an approximation. We're looking at the numbers in the text, in the biblical text. It tells us 600,000 men. Okay? So this is people over 20 years of age. 600,000. So we extrapolate that because we know there's going to be wives and children, etc. So we're being rather conservative with a 2.5 million figure. Remember, this is 3,500 years ago. And we'll actually, we mentioned last time, we'll talk about the historicity of this entire thing in all of this, because there's some interesting questions there, and those are fair, and we should talk about them, Okay, we're not going to shy away from any information that's out there about this that might call things into question or anything like that. We're totally good with that, right? Because we just want to know what's true. Okay, we don't have some religious bias. We just want to know what's true. But he's removed these 2.5 million people out of Egypt, and they're now 45 days into this journey that should have taken just 3 weeks. They end up spending 40 years in the desert, in the sweltering sun, in a barren place with no food and water. So we went through here, and as you can see, I've added some little icons here to try to liven that up a bit. Now we're here. This is Numbers. We're in Exodus in the last video. Now we're in Numbers. Numbers chapter 1 and 1 through 3. 14 months after leaving Egypt, Yahweh counts the men to build an army. Now let me make this full screen, and we'll zoom in a bit here so you can read this. Now this is straight from the text. Now Yahweh, now if you're reading this in a Bible, you're going to see instead of Yahweh here, it's going to say like the Lord. All right? Because there is a Christian tradition to take away Yahweh, Yahweh Vahe. Now, the most possible correct pronunciation of these 4 characters here, Yod-He Vahe, is Yehovah. Yehovah. Okay? The most common pronunciation is Yahweh. Right? That's the pronunciation I use solely for that reason, because it's the most common. You've also got Jehovah. Of course, the J sound in language is rather new. So it definitely was not Jehovah, and the JWs have made quite a funny, kind of amusing error there, because, anyone that knows much about linguistics knows that the J sound is fairly recent. Even 350 years ago, the J sound wasn't really used. Today it is, and it's funny that the JWs have picked up that and tried to extrapolate it through history 3,500 years ago, but they can't do that. So, Yod, He, Va, He. That's the sound each of the consonants make, YH, WH, YH, VH. You can really write it either way. But when the translators come to these 4 characters, they translate it into the Lord. And it shouldn't be that way at all. It should be Yahweh, right? So let's keep reading. Now, Yahweh spoke to Moses in the tent of meeting in the desert of Sinai on the first day of the 2nd month of the 2nd year after the Israelites departed from the land of Egypt. That's how we know it's 14 months after leaving Egypt, right? So we're not guessing at these dates. These dates are in the text, okay? The 2nd month of the 2nd year after the Israelites departed from the land of Egypt. 14 months. Great. Now, they have a different calendar to us. We have a solar lunar calendar, or a solar calendar. They have a solar lunar calendar. And so there are differences. I think I have that right, or maybe the other way around. But a year is basically a year, okay? For this kind of purposes, for this kind of time frame. Yahweh said, take a census of the entire Israelite community by their clans and families, counting the name of every individual male. You and Aaron are to number all in Israel who can serve in the army, those who are 20 years or older, by their divisions. They're being organized into an army. Why is that? Why is the so-called God of all the universe suddenly needing to build an army of humans? For what purpose? There can only be one purpose: to go to war against other humans, to hurt other humans. This is interesting. So, counting the name of every individual male. If Yahweh needs Moses and Aaron to count all the men over 20, it means Yahweh is not omniscient. He's not all-knowing. What do you mean? Well, what does he need to count them for? How does that make any sense? There's things like this just ad infinitum here in the Torah. Number all in Israel who can serve in the army by their divisions. I mean, he's literally building an army. One must ask what Yahweh has need of a human army for, if he is who he claims to be. Right? And this is my text to tell me to come back and add some more to there. But one must ask what Yahweh has need of a human army for, if he is who he claims to be. Why does the God of all creation require a human army? It's unbelievable. So this is Numbers. Numbers now, we're going to go to Numbers 11, 4-6. And the people are weeping for food. They're hungry. They're starving. Same time period, 14 months after leaving Egypt. Verses 4-6, Numbers 11. Now, the mixed multitude who were among them craved more desirable foods because they were getting manna, right? And so the Israelites wept again and said, if only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we used to eat freely in Egypt, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. But now we are dried up, and there is nothing at all before us except this manna. Interesting. So the Israelites wept again. We remember the fish we used to eat freely in Egypt. So the Hebrews cry out for meat, specifically fish, that was plentiful in Egypt. It's the only meat the Hebrews ever speak of, actually, is fish. There is nothing at all before us except this manna. All Yahweh is providing them is manna. We later learn that the manna Yahweh is giving them isn't even true manna from heaven as Yahweh claimed it was. Of course, if Yahweh has no access to heaven anymore, heaven being a physical place, he could not get true manna. So what else is he getting? I don't know, something from somebody else. Numbers 11, 18-20. Yahweh reacts with spite. This is incredible. You know, Jesus said that a man shall be known by his fruit. He told us that a good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. So it's interesting that Christians will say that, you know, a person will be known by their fruit, but they don't apply that to Yahweh. Why not? All right. Numbers 11, 18-20. And say to the people, sanctify yourselves for tomorrow, and you will eat meat, for you will have wept. For you have wept in the hearing of Yahweh, saying, who will give us meat to eat, for life was good for us in Egypt? Therefore Yahweh will give you meat, and you will eat. You will eat not just 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 5 days, nor 10 days, nor 20 days, but a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils and makes you sick, because you have despised Yahweh, who is among you, and have wept before me, saying, why did we ever come out of Egypt? Who is this guy? Why has Christianity convinced so many that this individual with this arrogance, with this level of narcissism, is the same Abba Father that our Lord Yeshua told us about? That's nonsense. This is not the same person. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit. A bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Yahweh's a bad tree, and all he bears is bad fruit. Steal, kill, destroy. Therefore, Yahweh will give you meat until it comes out of your nostrils and makes you sick. The Hebrews cry out for food, so Yahweh decides to punish them by sending stupid amounts of quail instead of fish. Now, take note here that Jesus is Lord of the water, while Yahweh is Lord of the air. The Hebrews asked for fish. Yahweh sends them birds instead. Interesting. Yahweh brings them such a massive amount of quail that they quickly stink up the place. You know, this is just such childish spite. Who does this? So the Hebrews ask, why did we ever come out of Egypt? The Hebrews realized the tragedy of their mistake in listening to Yahweh. All listening to Yahweh has done is lead to their deaths. You know, I used to make all the same excuses that every Christian makes about what's going on here. I made all the same excuses. I've been a Christian minister all my life. This is not new to me. You know, you get a lot of Christians coming and saying, oh, you don't understand this, you don't understand that. I taught it all my life. What are you talking about? Don't understand it. So there's something that needs to happen. Like there has to be kind of a sense of honesty where we realize that, wait a minute, you know, it's the most rational thing in consideration of what we see in the text, what Jesus warned us about the devil appearing as an angel of light, a great falling away. You know, people think that's, oh, it's just about to come right now. Oh, come on, look around. I think it's fair to say that this great falling away happened right at the start, right when, you know, and maybe this is not a concrete way of measuring when, but something about the way turning into Christianity. I can't look at these stories anymore the way I used to. I used to just make all the same excuses. Well, I mean, they should have been obedient. Yahweh's trying to teach them obedience. 2.5 million people left Egypt. Do you know how many finally arrived in the promised land that was 3 weeks away? Do you know how many arrived 40 years later? How many of the original 2.5 million that left Egypt arrived in the promised land? Do you know? Have a guess. Like out of 2.5 million, say like 2 million, maybe 500,000 were lost along the way. Maybe they, oh no, it was much worse than that. It was like a million of them. Well, it was 2. Not 2 million. 2. Joseph and Caleb. That's it. 2 people. And the reason they got to enter is because they were the most loyal to Yahweh, the ones who sucked up to him the most. Right? We need to take another look at this whole story. We need to see what's really going on here. And then when we compare it to what Jesus says, we start to see that he addresses a lot of this. Okay? Our time is up here for the day, but I want to see you in the next video. So please subscribe and turn on notifications. And thank you for engaging with me on Twitter and starting to get things kind of going there a little bit. Trying to pick some fights there. Come on, let's talk about these things. It's important that we discuss important issues. All right. So if you'd like to join the Founders Club, you can just get along to andersondiscoveries.com and you will find some information there all about it. Okay. Everything's free to everybody. Nobody misses out. Everything is released to the public, like as a proper study or these table talks, which are very casual. And I don't know my starting point and ending point. We just put the camera on and start to go for a little bit. And we'll keep these nice and short. But the big studies, no one misses out. But if you believe in what I'm doing, you want to support this, then please hop over to andersondiscoveries.com up here and get that subscription going. Let's get that up to 100. Appreciate you all very much. You have a wonderful night. Take care. Bye-bye.